Hey you guys, Vertigo here again with another video, obviously. You're watching this on YouTube, it's a video. Let's jump right into it. We're flying today from Denver to Seattle as Alaska Airlines in the Boeing 737-900. Again by PMDG, the call sign is Alaska 677. We're on the ground here at Denver, gate Charlie 39. The time is 4:31 local. Scheduled time for departure is 4:40, so we need to be off the ground in less than 10 minutes. I doubt we'll do that, but we'll be close enough. The aircraft has been prepped for the most part. We still need to do some of the pre-flight, but that's well underway. The passengers and the fuel are boarded, the jetway is pulled, the doors are closed, so we're pretty close to being ready. And without further ado, we can jump right into it. I'll mention things as they come to me, and as always, if you have questions, feel free to ask about scenery, about textures, etc., etc. Feel free to ask, but just off the top of my head, I'm using Active Sky 16 with Active Sky Cloud Art and the various textures that come with that, and there's some Rex textures in there, I believe. The airport is by Flightbeam here at Denver, and Taxi to Gate, I believe, is who makes Seattle, although I could be mistaken on that. If I am, I'll correct myself at a later time. Good sceneries, though, and we are flying on VATSIM, so let's get to it. I'm just going to set the pressurization panel here, so let's hop over to the FO side. Otherwise, the overhead is good to go for the time being. We should set the pressurization panel. We're going up to flight level 340, so we'll set 34,000 feet here, and landing altitude at Seattle, if I take a look here, is approximately 450 feet, so we'll set that as well. 450, and done. So, what we can do now is we can get down on the radio panel, and we can call for clearance. The only ATC currently online is ground, so we can get clearance and taxi from him, and then we'll be on our own. So 121.85 for our clearance. Alright, let's give him a call. Denver ground, good evening. Alaska 677 with the weather, IFR to Seattle.
Alaska 677, Denver ground, good afternoon, sir. Cleared to Seattle to Pendleton Airport, VATSIM departure, and Denver's filed. Via the SID. Departure frequency will be on Unicon 22.8, squawk 0674.
Alright, cleared to Seattle. The Yami 3 departure, and is filed. Climb via SID, departure 122.8, and squawk 0674, Alaska 677.
Alaska 677, read back is correct, expect runway 34 right.
Roger. Alright, 34 right, that is actually what I had written down in advance, so me and that controller are on the same page. Good man. I appreciate that, and we'll put in our squawk here, 0674, and let's put Unicom on the standby frequency 122. Using a new mouse here. I've had three mice. I'm not sure. They've all broken within a few days, and then I just recently got some new ones, and they're kind of lousy mouses, but they get the job done. I'm going to get a nice new mouse or two here soon, but bear with me if my mouse control, that's such a silly term I just coined, is a little off. Okay, so let's get right to it here. Airport, obviously, Denver, Caden, and if we grab the GPS, use that to align the IRS. And we're going to Seattle. Runway 34 right for departure. The wind's idling north at 10 knots, gusting to 20, so naturally a northerly departure makes sense. Flight number Alaska 677. And our routing, if I pop open PFPX on my other monitor, it's the Yami 3 to Laramie, the Laramie VOR. That's the ticket. And then IDA, that's another VOR. I do not know the name of it currently. Idaho Falls, apparently. And then we're direct to PDT, which is yet again another VOR. And that one I can actually check on here because it's on the chart. It's the Pendleton VOR. And from the Pendleton VOR, we join the arrival into Seattle. So the departure, it's an RNAV departure. It is the Yami 3. And then, off 34 right, that's already been entered. And then the arrival is the Chins 1. Currently, the wind's out of the north at Seattle, so we would be landing to the north. And I can quickly check that again just to make sure the winds haven't shifted. I doubt they have. Yeah, 330 at 10, gusting 15. So, Chins 1, arrival, Pendleton, transition. On the ILS, we'll take 34 center. They use 34 right for departures, 34 center and left for landings. Given the traffic load, 34 center would be just fine. So there's our route. We'll activate it and execute that activation. And we now have a good routing. Our zero fuel weight should autofill, which it does. Our reserve fuel is available via PFPX, and it is 3.9 pounds on the reserves. Cost index, let's make it 38. That's generally what I use in the NGX. Flight level is 340. Winds at cruise, these you always kind of have to roughly estimate, but if I take a look here, we'll call it 273 at 21. So 273 at 21, and the top of climb outside air temperature, that's a bit easier to find. It will get as chilly as minus 49 Celsius up there at cruise, and do that like so. That's now inserted. Takeoff D-rate, we do have a D-rate. We have a heck of a lot of runway and a big headwind, so we don't need maximum takeoff performance. We're going to have a 22K D-rate here, and 30 is the assumed OAT, and this is with a flap setting of flaps 1. And all of this information is from TopCat. I've had people say, why are you using flaps 1 for departure? Well, this is from TopCat, which is a takeoff performance calculator. I kind of defer to that. So V-speeds, auto compute, and we will insert those so that we have V-speeds on the tape here. And with that done, the FMS is done quickly. We'll set the parking brake. We will open a fuel pump. Actually, we have fuel in the center tanks, don't we? So we could still open this left forward fuel pump here, number 1 forward fuel pump. Start up the APU. We'll now set the MCP. So V2 is 151. Initial heading off 3.4s is a 353 heading, it would appear. Top climb 23,000 feet, or flight level 230. And we did get climb via SID, so we can go all the way up to what is published on the chart, 230. Auto brake 2 RTO, auto throttle armed. Flight directors can come up. We'll set the NDs here. And ARM VNAV and LNAV, because this is an RNAV departure. And the last thing to do is set the altimeter. And I'll just peek again at the METAR to gather that. It's 3019. There's 3019. Just waiting for that APU. It should be available, and it is now. So, on the APU generators here, we can turn the yaw damper on. The jetway is pulled. Let's go ahead and call over GSX and push and start here. So, we'll want our nose to the right, tail to the left. Let's see, Alaska, where you at? Southwest JetBlue, none of these are Alaska. We can use Delta, I suppose. Or, okay, it just did it by default. Okay, nose right, tail left. Brakes are set. Let's get the remainder of our fuel pumps open. Anti-collision light on. Passenger signs are on. Packs are off. All our bleeds are on. Isolation valve is open.
Flight deck, this is ground crew. Stand by for pushback.
And we're ready to go. So I'm going to set the transponder there to auto so that we're mode Charlie. You have to be mode Charlie on all active taxiways in the United States. It's not the case in Europe. And with that done and the beacon and the fuel pumps on, we're in good shape, ready for push and start. So we'll let the ground crew do their thing down there. Maybe we can even peek at them, in fact. Not sure if we're going to be able to see over the nose. Oh, yeah. Southwest. So they gave us southwest instead of Alaska. That's fine. At least we have the... oh, you know what? I forgot to do, and why they're not going to push us back currently is because the doors are indeed closed. However, our ground connections are not clear. We can get rid of the pitot covers and the air conditioning and the ground power and the wheel chocks. Okay, and now we're ready to go. They should do their thing, and we should be on our way. It was convenient
Locking gear.
that I happened to float up here and see that GPU is still there, because if I hadn't, I probably would have been confused as to why GSX wasn't pushing us back, and I would have got very frustrated for no good reason. I like these, what are these called, like eyebrow?
Ground crew departure check is complete.
Covers,
No
I'm not quite
steering
sure.
Disconnected for push. Release parking brakes.
I think they're cool. At any rate, brakes released.
Okay, here we go. All clear behind the aircraft. Safe to start engines at your discretion.
And we'll start number 2, then number 1. Right, so up comes number 2. We're looking for roughly 25% N2 or 2.5% N1, and then we'll feed fuel in to the engine. There's 23, 24, and there's 25% N2, and fuel is going in. Just looking at the ground chart here as we're pushing back, it looks like our taxi is going to be via Charlie November Foxtrot 1. My chart may be out of date, but that'll be roughly correct. Then will be a northerly departure, and if we take a look here at our legs, it's just kind of a slight left-hand turn, nothing too crazy. Alright, there goes the starter cutout. We have a good start on engine number 2, let's start number 1.
Control aircraft, information alpha is now current.
Sounds like it just posted an ATIS fuel going into engine number 1. Let's see if we can grab it. Okay, it hasn't updated on my end yet, but we can get that information when it's available.
Set parking brakes, please.
Okay, brakes are set. That's pushback complete. And there goes the starter cutout for number 1, so we'll transfer the engine gens on the bus. We can get rid of the APU and the APU bleed. Packs can go to auto. Ditto for the isolation valve.
Unlocking gear.
Electric hydraulics on, probe heat on. Start switches to continuous. We'll set our flaps.
Nose wheel steering connected. Pins removed. Tow vehicle disconnected.
Alright, flaps are set to flaps 1 for takeoff. We can set our trim as well, and that's 5.51 units. There's about 5 units, and we'll call that, yeah, 5.5 roughly there. So, with the trim set and the flap set, the overhead panel taken care of.
The aircraft left and right.
We can get the taxi light on. We can check the flight controls, and once the flight controls are checked, we'll be on our way.
Denver Ground, good afternoon. Pacific 7571 with information Alpha, IFR to Great Falls, Montana, ready, copy, clearance.
Pacific 7571, Denver Ground, good afternoon, sir. You are cleared to Great Falls International Airport with 3 departures.
Flight controls look good to me.
Departure frequency will be on Unicom 122.8, squawk 0617.
Pacific 7571 is cleared to Great Falls, Rick 3 departure. Then as final climb via the SID, departure 122.8 and squawk 0617.
7571, read back is correct. Expect runway 34 right.
And expect runway 8 for departure and call on for taxi Pacific 7571.
7571, that was runway 34 right, it's runway 34 right.
Okay, expect 34 right, and we'll call for taxi.
Okay, so while that clearance was happening, tower came online, 133.3, and the flight controls, as I said, appear good. Hopefully you can hear me over the other aircraft on frequency. And we're ready for taxi, so brakes released. I'm going to give him a call. In Denver ground, it's Alaska 677 with information Alpha, ready for taxi.
Alaska 677 at runway 34 right, taxi via Charlie November.
Charlie November to 34 right, Alaska 677. Okay, straight ahead, down Charlie November we go. Over to 34 right.
Alaska 677, contact number tower 133.3, see ya.
133.3, Alaska 677, so long. Okay, over to the tower we go, 133.3. Just turn the weather radar on here on the left-hand ND. Denver Tower, good evening, Alaska 677, we're short of 34 right.
Alaska 677, Denver Tower, stand by.
Okay, so we'll hang out here for a minute till he gets back to us. And we're fully ready. We just, as we enter the runway, transponder to TARA, lights on, and then we will start the clock. Don't know how long we'll be waiting, so I'll just set the parking brake. 34 right, clear for takeoff, Alaska 677. Not a long wait at all. Alright, let's do it. Run the clock, do our due diligence, and just make sure final is clear, which it is. And we're out of here. Hopefully I can line up a bit better. I've been having real trouble lining up recently, which is kind of strange because generally I tend to do a decent job of that, but recently I haven't been. Okay, here we go. Engine stable, takeoff. Alright, N1 heading select and toga are enunciated on the PFD. Airspeed is alive. Power is set. There's 80 knots and thrust hold should enunciate. There it is.
V1. Rotate. V2.
Alright, positive rate gear can come up. There is LNAV. N1 and VNAV speed. Gear off, auto brake off. And we'll begin to make that left-hand turn.
Alaska 677, landing at Unicom 22 ACL.
122.8, so long, Alaska 677. Just tune that in, 122.8. And we're away. Speed rises here, we'll bring our flaps up. Sync up our heading bug here with our current course. Okay, flaps are up. Get the start switches off, and we'll get these preliminary lights off. Get the rest of the lights off at 10,000 feet. And I'll hand fly the aircraft up to 10,000 feet and then put in the autopilot at that point. It won't be much longer. The airport elevation at Denver obviously is so high, so you don't have a long ways to go until 10,000. Bit bumpy to say the least, which isn't exactly surprising out of Denver. Okay, there's 10,000. The autopilot is in. I don't know why VNAV will not engage. Let's give that another try. VNAV does not want to catch, so let's bug our altitude up first and foremost to 340, to our final cruise. We can clear out all these altitude restrictions. And now try VNAV. There we are. Now we can grab it. I think the reason that VNAV wouldn't catch in that situation was because we had busted an altitude restriction that the FMC wanted us to hold. And so it was kind of confused. That's, I guess, my bad, but we don't need to worry about those altitude restrictions, so it's not a big deal. And man, is it bumpy, but gorgeous. Bumpy, but gorgeous. That is shockingly amazing, that view. Wow. Really, really cool stuff. Well, the seat belts, the passenger signs aren't going to be coming off anytime soon. We can get the rest of our landing lights off at this point, and we're on our way, albeit somewhat frighteningly. Yeah, this is a little sketchy. Hopefully, we get out of this chop soon. But yeah, it's about a 2.5 hour long flight, so be up in the air here for a while. But I'll check in at points during the flight to let you know how things are going. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Enjoy the ride. Hello you guys, welcome back into the flight deck here at flight level 340. We're a little under 80 miles from top of descent, so we're going to go ahead and start preparing for that, or I'm going to go ahead and start preparing for that, and I'll walk you all through that process. So, I was taking a look at the charts, and that information actually auto-filled into our MCP. We only have one altitude restriction on the way down, and then the rest we'll kind of manage ourselves. If we hop down into the legs page, I can show you where that is. It's here at Ratty. We need to hit at 250 knots, 12,000 feet. Otherwise, we're kind of managing our descent at our discretion, given that there's no ATC currently online. So, with that said, let's set the MCP to 12,000 feet. We'll wind this on down to 12K. There it is. The pressurization panel is already set. We did that when we were on the ground. The ILS frequency and course, the wind is still out of the north, so we're still going to be landing on, or to the north, and that'll be 3-4 center. And the frequency for that is 111.7. That's 111.7. So we will set that as such on both of the navigation radios, and then we'll set the course. So 111.7. And the course on the approach is 343. There is one and the other. With that done, we can set an auto brake. Now we get 9,500 feet of runway on 3-4 center. That's a good bit of runway. We could potentially use an auto brake of 2, but we're fairly light, and given that it's a dry runway and a relatively long one, we'll just use an auto brake of 1. Our minimums on this approach for the ILS are 604. We probably won't need them, but we should put them in just for good measure and good habit. So 604 on the barometric minimums. So you can see this down here in the PFD going up, and we're going to wind this up to 604. And that's not 604 feet above the ground, that's 604 feet above sea level. So there's 604 on the barometric minimums. As far as the approach goes, we could brief that in some detail. I'll just quickly skim over it. There's no need to get too stuck in here. So if we do have to go mist, which hopefully we don't, it's clear skies. It is a bit windy, but clear skies. Hopefully we don't have to go mist. We're going to climb on a 345 heading, and on the 341 outbound radial from the Seattle Vortac to cross Koila, 4.7 DME at or above 3,000, and then climb to 5,000. So the mist approach altitude is going to be 5,000 feet, and it's pretty much going to be runway heading up to 5,000, and then we'd enter a hold. In our case, we just self-vector ourselves back around. We'll be landing with flaps 30 as per the usual, and if anything else comes up in the descent, we will address it. But the weather's pretty standard here at Seattle, nothing too crazy. Wind 010 at 13 gusts, 1.8 or gusting 1.8. Good visibility, clear skies, no rain, which is actually pretty surprising for Seattle, although it is the summer. So should be pretty straightforward. The last thing we can do is just get our landing speed. 8.7 on board right now, 7.5 at Seattle, so it's about a 1,000-pound difference. We're going to call it 119.3 for our gross weight upon landing, which will give us a landing speed of 138 knots. It'll be about, 143 when we correct for the wind, and so that's that. Top of descent's 42 now miles away. So I'll turn the passenger signs back on here soon, and we'll start down. Okay guys, welcome back. We're well into our descent, just coming up on Ratty here, where we're going to cross at 12,000 feet. As you can see, the plane is decelerating down to 250 knots. I reset the altimeter at 18,000 feet, the transition altitude here in the US, to the local setting at Seattle, which is 3009. Weather has remained unchanged during the descent. If you look out to the left here, I believe this is Mount Rainier. I could be wrong. Don't take me at my word on that. But that's my hunch. That's my gut feeling. So if it is cool, it's a cool view. If not, well, it's still a cool view, but it's not Mount Rainier. And yeah, these hills are just gorgeous with those trees, those rich green colors. That's really cool. And then the mist sitting on these hills. It's very, very cool. Anyway, speed's in a good place. Altitude's there at 12,000, which is fine. We're going to stay here at 12,000 for just a moment. If you take a look here at the ND, you can see we continue on this present heading up until this fix up here called Auburn. You can't quite make it out because that deceleration marker is covering it. Given that we're landing to the north, we fly a 250 heading, so we make a left-hand turn, and we're going to overfly the approach course. We're going to fly perpendicular to the approach course. To 34 center, the runway we're going to be landing on, and then we're going to make a left-hand turn for a left downwind, and then we're going to swing over to base to final. So we're actually going to get a cool view of the field here as we overfly, and let's go ahead and start to descend a bit now. Let's take it down to let's make it 8,000 feet, and we can start down. And we should probably speed intervene here because I didn't continue the descent. the plane is just maintaining that altitude and dropping the speed down. So let's bring the speed back up to 250. There's no reason not to, and the plane's going to enter a pretty firm descent to reach that speed because it's in VNAV speed here. What does that mean? It means the plane's going to pitch for that particular speed. So it's going to pitch to achieve that speed. Just need to be a little careful about this terrain here, but as long as we stay at 8,000, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Better yet, let's go VS so the plane doesn't completely throw the nose over. 2,500 feet per minute sounds good to me. And yeah, we'll keep the speed. Let's make it 240. And if we want to stay at 240, we're probably going to have to shallow out the descent a good bit. Alright, that's looking pretty good. There's 10,000 feet, so the fixed landing lights are on. As I mentioned earlier, we reset the pressure. 3009. We'll start to get some flaps out here at some point, but not quite yet. And I'm going to pull just a little bit of spoiler to make sure the speed doesn't get away from us here. And now actually we're a bit high, so let's go down to 8,000 feet, let's level off at 8,000, we'll stay there for a minute, and then we'll get the VNAV path back, and we'll allow it to handle us from that point forward. There's 1,000 to go for 8. Man, this scenery is just absolutely gorgeous, shockingly gorgeous. Too cool. Flight sim can be pretty rewarding, a pretty rewarding hobby at times, especially with visuals like this. It's immersive and enriching. Okay, we'll stow that spoiler back away. Plane will level off here at 8,000. Once we're, I don't know, a couple miles from Auburn there, let's say once we're over top of Auburn, we'll reduce our speed down to 210. And as we make our left-hand turn onto downwind, then we'll drop the speed down to 180. So let's take it down to 4,000. We'll stay at 8,000, and then we'll catch the vertical navigation path, which you can see here on the ND. We'll catch this as it catches up to us. Alright, there we go. And we're back on, VNAV path is now engaged, which is what we want. Little pond and lakes down there. Very, very cool. And then, I don't know if we'll get a look at downtown Seattle on the approach. Sometimes you do, depending on the direction of your arrival and what approach you're taking. But we shall see. Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, it's really surprising to have no clouds whatsoever at Seattle. Generally it's raining, and if it's not raining, it's at least cloudy, but there's not a cloud in the sky. The METAR is completely correct. It's clear. Little hazy, but completely clear. And really, really nice day for flying, apparently. And a nice 900 to 1,000 foot per minute descent here. Coming up on Auburn, where we will then make that left-hand turn. Fly a 250 heading. So I'm going to go ahead and prime this here on the MCP. And I think we're just starting to see the airfield come into sight up there. Yep, that is the airfield, I believe. You can see the taxiways and the runways. As the textures slowly load in here. And here's that left-hand turn over Auburn. Fly that 250 heading. There's our speed reduction. Let's go. Speed intervene. We'll keep the speed at 210, and I'm going to take flaps 1. And we'll get our engine start switches to continuous. So yeah, we should be able to see the field here in just a moment. Yeah, there it is. We'll be abeam the approach course here momentarily. There it is. There's the airfield. Should probably make sure there's no other traffic in the area. That's always a good idea. Although I haven't heard any calls on Unicom for quite a while. I will just take a peek to be sure that we're totally in the clear. There's nobody else we need to worry about. A couple of departures as I'm looking at vPilot here, but no arrivals, so we're good to go. Will be interesting this wind. 13 knots gusting at 1.8 is that's no joke. That's not. I mean, that's not a ton of wind, but that's something you have to be aware of. Man, does that water look nice. Okay, there we are, just over top of the field at this point. Or not over top, but over top of the approach course. And there's downtown Seattle, way out yonder. Downtown Seattle, Seattle International Airport. Cool stuff. Give us a little more space here for our downwind leg. We'll keep on this heading for a moment longer. Yeah, I'd say we're about ready to make that turn to downwind at this point. So let's do that. We'll level change it. We'll go 180 on the speed. And here comes that downwind leg. What, 180 degrees, the opposite of 343. That's 143, 163. We'll make it 165. That works. And flaps 5, it is. Take it down to 4,000 feet, and then we'll make that left-hand base turn, and then take that to final. Some interesting looking, I don't know what these are. Cranes, maybe? Are those cranes? I'm not sure. Maybe somebody who's familiar with the Pacific Northwest, Seattle specifically, could let me know. Those are interesting looking objects. It appears to be some kind of harbor, actually. Right, we'll stay on this downwind leg for a bit longer, and then we'll make our turn to final, or base to final. I do know that sometimes I try and get the timing right for when to start recording again on the descent and the arrival and the approach, and it's sometimes I get it a little wrong, and I feel like the video can drag out a bit, and that's obviously not the intent. I don't want you guys to be sitting here twiddling your thumbs or jumping ahead in the video, finding yourself bored out of your mind, but I'm sure it happens, and I apologize for that. But I'm working on getting that timing down better, and when I do royally mess it up, trying to keep you guys entertained with my mindless chatter as we fly the plane. Okay, let's make our turn to base. 90-degree angle, right about there should do. Look at that shadowing and reflection there on the flight deck. That is incredibly cool. So the aircraft trims itself out. And we'll fly this until roughly 2.5 miles from the localizer, and then we'll turn onto final to intercept. A 010 heading should be pretty good. Let's make it 5 degrees here to the left. Okay, 010-ish. And we will arm approach. Yeah, that looks like it'll do as a intercept heading. Glide slope is alive, as is the localizer. And we'll bring it in just a few degrees to make that intercept heading a little less severe. And as we roll out, as we get the localizer, we'll be about 10 miles from final. There's the localizer. Just barely see the field in sight there. There's a little bit of haze over top of it. And down comes the glide slope. We'll wind that speed down to 173. We'll drop the gear, arm the spoilers, and we will take flaps 15. Now that we have the glide slope, we can set the missed approach altitude, which is 5,000 feet. Let's get all of our lights on. Turn-offs, taxi light, and the retracts. Yep, can see the poppy lights out there. Or pappy lights, rather. And let's set our approach speed 137 it'll be. Plus 5, make it 142. Radio altimeter is alive. Flaps 30. Oh, you can see some waves there off this harbor. Cool. Alrighty, let's try and have a nice landing here. We are fully configured, and what that means is I can go ahead and take out the autopilot here in just a moment. So I will do that. Should give a quick call on Unicom just to make sure everybody knows that we're about to land. Okay, let's do this. I have control. Yeah, and that's, what, a 13 knot wind more or less right there on the nose. Speed, just increase power ever so slightly to hold our speed. A little bit more power. Oh, there was a gust of wind, caused us to balloon up there slightly. Slightly left the center line there, just correcting. A little high, we'll pull power and push the nose over. Speed's good, altitude's good. There are our minimums. We're landing. Fly the aircraft down gently, slight flare. Hold that nose up. Reversers are out, and we're down. Reversers are stowed. I am manually braking, and we can make it off on the high speed here to the right. Beautiful, that went pretty well. I will take it. That was fun. So we're going to swing a hard right here on Juliet, cross 3-4 right, and take it into the gate. Let's get the aircraft cleaned up, get the spoilers, the flaps. Disarm or turn that auto brake off rather. Stop the clock. That was 2.5 hours on the dot. Lights can go. APU can be started. Start switches and the strobe. Let's get rid of our weather radar and traffic as well on the ND. Set the transponder to auto. Make sure I don't see an aircraft departing the runway, so let's get across here quickly. Okay, our lights are off, auto brake, speed brake, and flaps. We got the transponder, got the clock, started the APU, cleaned up the MCP, got our weather radar off, and we'll taxi on in here. The gate today is Charlie 9. Okay, here we are at the gate. We got the transponder. Taxi light is off, and we can pull in here. Here is Charlie 9. Or, sorry, that appears... Yeah, no, that is Charlie 9. It looked like Charlie 8 there for a minute, but that is indeed a 9. Swing that tail around. This is a pretty long aircraft, the 900. Pilots really complain about how difficult it is to fly, and I can understand why. The structure of it is kind of bizarre, to say the least. Okay, so let's get parked up. Inch forward just a bit more, and there we are. Okay, set the parking brakes. Let's transfer power to the APU gens and kill the engines. Anti-collision light can go. We can get a few fuel pumps here. Electric hydraulics, packs, isolation valve, APU bleed on, probe heat, window heat, the APU bleed, or sorry, the yaw damper. What am I talking about? The yaw damper can go, as well as the passenger signs. And there we are. Aircraft is relatively cleaned up. We'll let the ground crew do their thing, bring the jetway on over. It seems to be bugged out. and get ground connections, and we'll wrap it up. Okay guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that flight as much as I did. That was a lot of fun, and that was a lot cleaner than the 777 flight from Los Angeles to San Francisco. You'll probably have seen that one by the time you see this. I think I'm going to upload that one first, but honestly it was so rough around the edges. I'm definitely going to upload it for no other reason than it's the 777, and people for some reason really like the 777. But which one I upload first, I'm not quite sure yet. At any rate, you'll see that at some point. I did this one after this particular flight here, after that one. Whether or not you see it first, we'll see. But this was a ton of fun. Visually really nice. I had a fun time flying. It was pretty clean. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, comments, feedback, constructive critique, etc. all welcome. I'm a broken record. I say this ad nauseum, but it's all true and encouraged. It's the engagement and your guys' feedback that makes this enjoyable, and that's where I get the kind of fulfillment from. So, and shameless self-plug as per the usual. I'll put links in the description, but I live stream on Twitch if you're a Twitch goer and you want to see that. I also have Twitter and Facebook where you can engage with me and keep track of what I'm doing. I have pages specifically devoted to Vertigo, this flight simulation page. They aren't personal pages belonging to me, the human being outside of this. And as always, rather, if you like the video, a thumbs up, a like, and if you enjoy the content, if you'd like to subscribe to see more, that's always really nice and appreciated. But I'll shut up before I embarrass myself anymore. And I will see you all next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.